Hello, I'm Dr. Alana James. This presentation thank you very much for your interest. It's about research boot camps for master's and doctoral students. This is something that I'll be sharing with the Western Association for Graduate Schools in March. And I'm calling it Taking Research Boot Camps to Scale. It's a comparative study across 3 options that occurred last summer. So the storyline goes, we'll go through the background on the 3 different kinds of boot camps. I'll show you the comparison data, the findings and the implications as I see them of those data, and then a bit of a discussion on what worked and what needs improvement. So this was pre-COVID, or just at the beginning of COVID. I was contacted by a university to put in a proposal to help some seriously stalled graduate students, or EDD students. Turned out that the population was 7 years pre-proposal. I designed a 10-week program for pre-proposal with something going on every weekend in open office hours. And then I asked the other university partners that we provide standard academic and professional development if they would be interested in that kind of a service for their students. And they said yes. So pre-proposal and then post-data, to me, are 2 completely different ways that the student looks at how they're writing up their research, 2 different vantage points. And so it was a 10-week program pre-proposal and an 8-week program for those who had data. We had 3 groups then. We had the group that were the 7 years pre-proposal, small, paid for, very heavily involved from the university level. And we had the other 2, which were kind of, I'm going to say, mass call, professional development. Hey, we've got this. Anybody want to come? And here's the data. Oh, to start you off on what we heard later students were thinking. So this is just a person who came in from the professional development side. I came to boot camp because I wanted to have something structured that would see me through the summer. The way my program is set up, once you've finished your preliminary orals, the next time anybody talks to you is your dissertation defense. And that seemed to leave me in large ocean waters that I wasn't comfortable in. I can always go back to my advisor, but I was looking for something structured for the next 10 weeks in particular. And this student said, okay, I'm going to be on my own this summer. And I got an email, suggested I do this. I like what I saw. I took the survey. And then I said, oh, this is different. It's more structured. And then I went to the pd.education site and I was like, woohoo, kid in the candy store. So much help. I was excited. And that was one of our seriously stalled students. So what do we see when we look at the data? Focusing now on the EDDs who were stalled, they were registered and enrolled by their university. I think that's significant. They enrolled 22, 18 came, so that's 81%. 100% of them were stalled. 100% of them were stalled 7 years or more pre-proposal. They got the same synchronous, asynchronous office hour basic program, and there are now 8 to 10 of them working by June, fingers crossed, and they'll have their proposal done. 2 of them have already passed. So if we compare that to the pre-proposal post-data research master's call, general call, a total of 920 some students, 64% of the self-registered pre-proposal students actually showed up, 38% of the post-data showed up, 48% of the research masters. And then how many actually, now they also reported high incidence of feeling stalled. What stalled wasn't clearly defined in that survey, but they all felt like they were stalled, or a good percentage felt like they were stalled. And then we have what actually happened. A total of 30, 35 people did enough work that as a teacher, I think they probably got it. The thing with remote work when it's a random call, as we've seen with MOOCs and other things, is it has to so closely fit the student going through. They have to so clearly see its progression in their world that they continue forward. And I'll come back to that when I talk about lessons that take us into designing for this next year. So at the bottom line, though, we're looking at 8% versus 55% outcome-based results. So the first obvious finding is that university involvement counts a lot. Follow through in the process increases the likelihood of those who are stalled to feel like they have support from their universities as well as in this program that they're going through. And that's in line with literature on communities of practice. And I've put up some of the references there. Now, when we look at the question of synchronous and asynchronous work, this was 2 synchronous sessions, a class, if you would, and then an open office hours question Q&A once a week, but backed up by a huge library of other things. So you have questions about academic writing, you might want to go take the 30-day challenge, or you might want to go see the basic academic writing video, or et cetera, et cetera. So there's a large library that backs up this work. And then we looked at, of the students who came and who finished, who did what? Synchronous, asynchronous. And we see that asynchronous attendees is a little bigger a population, almost across the board, even to a little bigger. And that in some cases significantly better. We also had students, of course, doing both pre-proposal and post-data, so some things are skewed. And I'm pointing to this top box, top yellow box at the top. You'll see there, those are the spark lines. They show a person coming or not coming. So the ones at the top are when we had a synchronous event, and then it went on to the next week and there's another synchronous event. So we could track by looking who was coming all the time, and you'll see that the top box are people who did both synchronous and asynchronous together. So really drilling into it. And literature tells us that that's important, especially for students for whom English is their second language, for whom first-gen students, whom some of the conceptual base of science and it's just foreign language, very subtle. So our findings are that 10 out of the 36 people earned endorsements, and to earn an endorsement you had to do most of the work, who did all the work asynchronously. So which is in line with the literature on the importance of redundancy in synchronous and asynchronous options for student learners. And I've given you some quotes there. So students wrap it up this way. I would say it's an excellent program to keep you on track at the exact time when you need help staying on track. For me, it gave me hope again that I could finish. If a person was asking me about it, I would ask, well, are you specifically stuck? Have you not been writing for a while? Have you been spinning your wheels for 6 months? Can you not get hold of your advisor? Those are the things that they felt this program helped. And then they said at the end, you're going to have to work, but that's exactly what you need to do. If you are signing up for this boot camp, you are signing up to get yourself working, either continuing or back on track. A STEM student, and this is always a particular query from science and engineering students, is I was apprehensive because I needed direct science-specific formatting help. And I had all these random questions, and I wasn't sure whether I could ask them or not, or if they were okay in a broad-based global format. and then ends with, it's clear now that everyone is comfortable saying anything, and that helps. We did have some disconfirming evidence, and the 3 things that we took from those are the need to consistently repeat where everything was and how the homework goes. So this is, you're in this group and your homework for the week is this, and you should be progressing from here to here, and this is the link. Please check it now to make sure it works for you. Because triple check links can be problems, and they don't, and especially links that take you out to another source. So have people check them in the room. And anonymous comments and questions. So we have moved away from chat for questions and comments because it's too easy to say, Adrian, thank you for asking that question, and the answer is such and such. And they found that some students are hesitant to, because they don't want their name out there. They want to be a lurker, but yet they want to have their answers. So we have moved to something called Bootcamp, and it allows people in their phones to type in anonymous questions. We never know who is asking them. And the level of questions and the amount of questions has increased immensely as a result of learning from this. So what are the implications? This, by the way, is Mount Everest, and I think for a lot of people, our PhDs are Mount Everest, and look at how many people are already up at the top. So the implications. First finding, of course, is that university involvement equates to the largest return. Biggest investment was not just enrolling, but meeting with me 2 or 3 times, and then ongoing support. But that is the outcome is stunning. As I said, 40% of stalled people 7 years are actually on to getting their proposal once. Stunning results. Moderate investment. It's important to reach the students who were stalled. I think we need to know what population we want to serve with special things, and then we need to actively enroll that population. And the second finding is don't discount the power in 2 groups rather than 1. Boot camps are traditionally, here's what a dissertation is, here's how you put it together, a lot of information, probably some would say too much information to have big takeaways from it. Spread it out and allow people to do both groups if they want to, but be really clear, this is the way you typically think before you get your data, and these are the things that after you get your data that you need to consider that tie your argument together and get you ready to publish. And then finally, an asynchronous library is just hugely important, because you have a question come in that refers you back to a basic conceptual map for a literature review, which is a very specific question for a particular student, and you can't take a long time answering that question, but you can send them to a previous video that answered that question in depth, and then have them tell them that after they watch it, please come back if they have any additional questions. So you can field hundreds and hundreds of students. This is the at scale part. You can field hundreds and hundreds of students of questions because you have this library behind you that helps give them all the specifics they really need. So this coming summer, we're doing boot camps again, and we've learned from this. We are going to have them say, are they stalled? Are they just beginning? Or are they doing fine, but they're looking for accountability and some upskilling? And then each group will have its own calendar of back-sourced materials that are recommended to be considered by that group, in addition to the synchronous and asynchronous, their synchronous meetings and open office hours. So we think that then there's more of a, here's how you keep it going, and every week we'll have a clear outcome of, and then we'll have some measurements at the end of the week by asking the students to do some reflective practice. Once again, big library, 500 videos, 1,000 pages of content, 10 domains of writing and education, synchronous and asynchronous backup, which just makes all of this not an egregious amount of work. Hard, but not egregious. So thank you very much for watching. Just to say, if you're a university person and you're interested just in testing out this bootcamp idea, we are going to make a few available for universities that want to enroll special populations of students with us. Very reasonable cost, depending on the amount of students. And Michael at Doctoral Net will help with that. Thank you.